What happens when a manager of a luxury car dealership insults the wrong customer? When a young CEO, disguised in a thrift store dress, walks in and is humiliated by the very man who profits from her success, the fallout is swift and brutal. He doesn't just lose his job, he loses everything. And the junior employee he bullied? He gets promoted on the spot. Karma has arrived, and it's driving a Bentley. Picture this. You walk into your multi-million-dollar business, only to be told you don't belong there. The Bentley Silver Lake showroom gleamed like a spaceship landed in downtown Chicago, all polished marble, chrome accents, and the silent hum of money. At its center stood 23-year-old Evelyn Reed, CEO of Reed Automotive Group. But today, she wasn't the Wolf of Wabash Forbes had profiled last month. Dressed in a thrifted pink sundress, threadbare at the hem, and scuffed sandals, she looked like she'd just stumbled in from a flea market. Exactly the point. Evelyn had planned this test for weeks. After anonymous complaints about elitist treatment at her flagship dealership, she decided to see the truth firsthand. No security escorts, no executive team, just her, a $12 dress, and the empire she'd built selling crypto from her dorm room. She'd barely touched a vintage Mulson's fender when a shadow fell over her. Sales manager Robert Hayes loomed like a storm cloud in his too-tight Armani suit, reeking of cheap cologne and entitlement. "Can I help you?" he drawled, scanning her dress like it carried disease. Before she could answer, his finger jabbed within inches of her face. "Look around, sweetheart." He gestured at the $250,000 cars. "See any tricycles? This isn't a daycare. Real customers only." Evelyn's pulse spiked, not from fear but fury. This man made 6 figures off her vision. Yet he saw only faded fabric, not the fire that had taken her from food stamps to Forbes. She kept her voice soft, playing her role. "I was curious about the Bentayga hybrid." Robert's sneer deepened. "You? Sweetheart, you couldn't afford 5 seconds in the showroom, let alone a car like this." He snapped his fingers at a junior salesman. "Mike, escort miss. Budge out before she leaves fingerprints." That's when Evelyn saw them. For police officers hovering near the service bay, hands resting on batons. Robert followed her gaze, smirking. "Call them myself. We've had issues with vagrants casing the place." His eyes raked over her thrifted purse. "Can't be too careful." The air thickened with humiliation. Customers pretended not to stare. Staff studied their shoes. Evelyn's hands trembled, not with shame, but white-hot rage. She'd mortgaged her soul to build this. Slept in the showroom during blizzards to meet deadlines. Fought bankers who said a girl couldn't run an auto empire. And now this man, with his off-the-rack power tie and borrowed authority, dared to reduce her to a punchline? Behind Robert, a Bentley emblem caught the light, a silver bee forged in the same fire as her resolve. Time to show him whose house this really was. The air crackled. Robert's sneer still hung in the silence like toxic smoke. The taller cop reached for Evelyn's elbow. "Mr. Hayes?" Evelyn's voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. "Calm. Cold. Absolute. You're fired." Robert blinked, his triumph stuttering. "What did you—" She silenced him with a raised hand. Not a gesture of pleading now, a CEO's command. Every eye locked onto her as she reached into her worn leather purse. The fabric whispered. Robert scoffed. "Spare change won't save you, sweetheart." Then it emerged. Polished stainless steel caught the showroom lights, throwing spears of glare across Robert's face. Evelyn held the badge high, not flashing it, but presenting it like a sovereign seal. Evelyn Reed, founder and CEO, glared back in bold black engraving. Below it, the Reed Automotive Group logo, a stylized are forged from intertwined steering wheels. Gasps erupted throughout the showroom. "Oh my God, that's her!" The Wolf of Wabash. Mike, the junior salesman, stumbled back as if electrocuted. The mechanic dropped his wrench with a clang that echoed like a gunshot. Robert's face transformed. The smugness drained from his features, replaced by disbelief, then terror. His jowls trembled. But you're just a kid, a nobody in a rag." Spittle flew from his lips. "Correction." Evelyn's voice never rose, yet it carried like a command. She stepped forward, holding the badge between them like a shield. I'm the kid who approved your $220,000 salary last month. The nobody who signed your mortgage assistance checks. She tilted her head, ice in her gaze. The one who owns every car you just claimed I couldn't touch. Robert made a wet, choking sound. Evelyn turned to the police. Their hands had dropped from their belts. The taller cop stood rigid, eyes wide. Officers, Evelyn said, smooth as chilled steel. Kindly ensure Mr. Hayes surrenders his company property. Starting with, she nodded at the key fob dangling from Robert's belt, shaped like a Bentley's winged bee. His keys. Immediately, Robert fumbled wildly, fingers slick with sweat. The fob slipped, clattering onto the marble floor. The sound was obscenely loud. He scrambled, knees cracking against stone, but the younger cop intercepted it, handing the keys to Evelyn with a stiff nod. Ma'am. Silence swallowed the room. Evelyn addressed her staff, her voice echoing in the tomb-like hush. This dealership isn't about luxury cars. It's about basic human respect. Her eyes swept over their ashamed faces, lingering on Robert, now crouched on the floor. Today, we failed. Spectacularly. Robert whimpered. A dark stain bloomed across the crotch of his expensive suit. Robert's laughter wasn't just loud. It was a weapon. It echoed off the vaulted ceilings, bouncing between crystal-light fixtures and spotless windshields. You expect me to believe you own a Bentley? He wiped imaginary tears, his gold Rolex flashing under the lights. Honey, the only thing you're driving is that 2003 Corolla rotting in our parking lot. He snapped his fingers at Mike, the junior salesman, like summoning a dog. Escort, miss. Thrift store out. Now, before she sneezes on the upholstery. The staff froze. Mike hesitated, eyes darting between Robert's glare and Evelyn's calm face. A mechanic ducked behind an open hood. Cowards, Evelyn thought. She hugged her worn leather purse, the one she'd carried since her first investor pitch, like a shield. Please, she whispered, leaning into the role of the vulnerable outsider. Just 5 minutes to look at the Bentayga. Robert's smirk twisted into something predatory. He stepped closer, invading her space until she smelled his coffee breath and hair gel. 5 minutes. He flicked the frayed strap of her sundress. Lady, you couldn't afford 5 seconds of AC in this showroom. His voice dropped to a stage whisper that carried to the eavesdropping receptionist. Know your place, honey. This isn't for people like you. A well-dressed couple examining a flying spur recoiled. The woman clutched her pearls. How vulgar, she murmured, but her husband pulled her away, avoiding eye contact. No one spoke up. Evelyn's gaze swept the room. The gleaming car she'd ordered, the art she'd curated, the staff she paid. All silent, complicit. Then came the boots. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed as 2 police officers moved forward, hands resting on their duty belts. One rested his palm on his holstered taser. Ma'am, the taller cop said, not unkindly. We need you to come with us. Robert crossed his arms, triumph blazing in his eyes. Should have gone to Target, like I said. Evelyn's fingers tightened around her purse. Inside it, her CEO badge, cold metal etched with her name, pressed against her palm. She remembered writing Robert's glowing performance review 3 weeks ago. Exceptional leadership. Hypocrisy had never burned so hot. She straightened, letting the words hang in the air. Then, she lifted the badge, presenting it like a sovereign seal. How many others had he turned away? How many single moms, struggling students, or retirees made to feel worthless in her sanctuary of steel and dreams? The junior salesman, Mike, finally stepped forward, face pale. Sir, maybe if she just... Quiet, Mikey. Robert spat without looking. Or you'll join her in the squad car. Evelyn locked eyes with Robert. No more tests. No more chances. Game over. Chaos erupted like a windshield shattering. Robert lunged toward Evelyn, desperation contorting his face. I have a family, he screamed, spit flying. A mortgage. A kid in college. The cops grabbed his arms, cuff clicks echoing through the room. You ruined me, you heartless bitch. The taller cop shoved him toward the glass doors. Move. Robert's polished loafers skidded on marble, leaving scuff marks like scars. Staff watched, pale and silent, as Chicago's great daylight swallowed his howls. Evelyn inhaled slowly. Breathe. Rebuild. Her gaze swept the showroom, lingering on Mike, the junior salesman who'd almost spoken up. He stood frozen, staring at the spot where Robert had fallen. You, Evelyn said. His head snapped up. What's your name? D. Daniel, ma'am. His voice shook. Daniel. She held out Robert's Bentley key fob. The winged bee gleamed. Congratulations, Daniel. You're now interim manager. Daniel's eyes widened. A woman gasped near reception. Show me, Evelyn continued, nodding at her thrifted dress, how you treat someone wearing this. For 3 heartbeats, Daniel hesitated. Then professionalism overrode shock. He snatched a crystal water glass from a sales desk, filled it with sparkling Pellegrino, and offered it to Evelyn with both hands. Welcome to Bentley Silver Lake, ma'am. May I show you our new Bentayga hybrid? It features hand-stitched leather and a silence cabin system. His voice steadied. Perfect for uninterrupted thinking. A laugh burst from Evelyn. Sharp, unexpected relief. Proceed, Daniel. Like a conductor awakening an orchestra, Daniel gestured. Staff exploded into action. Salesmen buffed invisible smudges from hoods. The receptionist rushed forward with a plush chair. The mechanic offered to detail check any vehicle, no charge. The air hummed with terrified zeal. Later, in her glass-walled office overlooking the showroom floor, Evelyn sipped water. Outside, Daniel crouched beside an elderly couple in faded windbreakers. The woman touched a Bentley's door handle timidly. Instead of recoiling, Daniel beamed. Magnificent, isn't she? The paint's midnight sapphire changes hue in sunlight. Here, he placed the woman's palm flat on the hood. Feel that cold? Hand-sanded aluminum. The couple glowed. Evelyn's phone buzzed. A text from her CFO, Robert's company car repossessed. Legal prepping his termination docs. Press release draft ready. She swiped it away, eyes fixed on Daniel helping the couple into the Bentley's back seat. Like royalty, a smile touched Evelyn's lips, thin but real. Maybe the lesson stuck. At 6 p.m., Evelyn's voice echoed through every Reed automotive showroom nationwide. Today, we lost a manager, but regained our soul. Luxury isn't in leather seats or chrome badges. It's in the respect you give to the people others overlook. In Chicago, Daniel stood in Robert's old office, now his. He'd replaced the mahogany desk with a communal work table. On the wall, he'd framed Evelyn's thrifted pink dress alongside their new motto, See people, not price tags. No Judgment Mondays began the next week. Sales staff arrived in faded band tees and patched jeans. Daniel wore his late father's frayed mechanic overalls. At first, wealthy regulars balked. Is this a costume party? Scoffed a hedge fund manager. Daniel simply smiled, no, sir. It's a reminder that everyone deserves respect, whether they drive a Bentley or a bicycle. The local news picked up the story. CEO fires manager for disrespect. Staff now wear thrift store clothes went viral. By month's end, the Silver Lake dealership was swarmed. College students took selfies by the framed pink dress. Retirees in worn coats test drove Bentleys just to feel seen. Sales soared 200%. One Tuesday, Evelyn watched an 8-year-old in grass-stained jeans press his nose against a Continental GT's window. Before Robert, security would have shooed him. Now, Daniel knelt beside him. Want to hear how the W12 engine roars? The boy's gasp echoed through the showroom. As for Robert, his repossession played out at dawn. 2 stone-faced men arrived for his Bentley. Please, he begged from his driveway, I have interviews. They loaded the car silently. That afternoon, he sat in his empty garage, scrolling rideshare apps. His first pickup request pinged, a ride to Bentley Silver Lake. The passenger's name, Daniel Chun. Robert canceled the ride. 3 hours later, he accepted a $4.82 fare. The passenger wore a Reed automotive lanyard. Heard they fired some jerk manager here, she chirped. Serve him right. Robert drove in silence, her words etching themselves into his bones. So what's the lesson? Never judge by appearances, because karma hits harder than a fired manager's Uber rating. Your status isn't stamped on your clothes, your car, or your title. It's measured by the grace you show those the world overlooks. True power lifts others up, because those who build thrones of contempt end up kneeling on broken glass. If this video gave you that sweet, sweet justice dopamine, smash like and subscribe. One click costs you nothing, but fuels our mission to bring you more real-life lessons that hit harder than a Bentley's V8 engine. Stay sharp, stay kind. We'll see you in the next story.